before, welcome back. If this is one of your first, welcome. We're happy you're here. So essentially how this is going to run is we'll do a bit of an introduction at the beginning. We'll ask a couple questions just to kick things off, but then ultimately we're going to open it up to the Q&A. So please use your Q&A function to shoot any questions you have over. I will be monitoring all of it, trying to make sure that we answer as much as possible. So please make sure that you're using that function because it's the easiest way for me to kind of keep an eye on everything that's coming through. Please also keep yourself on mute throughout. It just kind of helps with the seamlessness of everything. And as I mentioned at the beginning, for anyone who is joining a little bit later, we will be recording this. We are recording this, and we'll send the recording through tomorrow, as well as a quick wrap up. But to get started, I'll do a quick intro into myself and Nonsensical. So I'm Melina, the head of partnerships here at Nonsensical. We're a TikTok marketing agency who help brands break through on the platform, and we've grown our own communities as well. This is not about me, so I will hand it over to the two lovely ladies.
Cool. Yeah, I can go first. So I am Carla. I am the Senior Social Media and Content Marketing Manager at Cineworld, currently on maternity leave. And I was hoping to have him down for the nap, but it wasn't quite working out. So any parents here might understand how I feel. So he'll be joining the webinar today. Yeah, and then Olivia.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Olivia. I'm the social media exec for Cineworld. So I run the TikTok account, which me and Carla started together just before she went on maternity leave.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much to the both of you for joining. We're really excited to have you here. We had a bit of a chat on Monday to just kind of introduce ourselves, and I know that both of them have a lot of great insights. So we'll start at the very beginning here. Why did you feel that TikTok was so important for Cineworld? Why was it one of the priorities for you to get started on?
Yeah, sure. So I think for us as a business, in sort of over lockdown and like throughout the COVID times, obviously TikTok started to get a lot more attention and a lot more users, and I think that was when things started sort of internally becoming more of like an interest point and like whether that should be a platform that we should explore as a brand. And then it started kicking off a lot more also in America, and as part of our group we have chains in America, like a chain in America, and we ended up seeing 40x content going sort of viral in the States. And so there was an appetite of like, you know, being able to recreate something like this over here. And so we started talking internally about how we can sort of go on the platform and be part of the platform. And I kind of said from the get-go that this is like a platform that needs its own content, that where we can't just repurpose content for other social channels. Like it needs to be TikTok specific, it needs to be TikTok first. And I knew that it would be a load of work. So I convinced the people that if they wanted the platform, then they would need another person. So we got Olivia. And sort of when we started looking for a social media executive, like one of the main things that we wanted was someone who really understood TikTok, who spent time on it, who understood like the trends and the algorithms and everything. And yeah, so Olivia can go a bit more into sort of her background and her knowledge of the platform and on the many reasons why she got the job in the end. But yeah, that was kind of like a big priority for us. We were looking for someone who understood TikTok, not just social media in general. So yeah, if you want to go into your background on TikTok, Olivia.
Yeah, sure. So I over lockdown became a content creator, as I feel like quite a few people did over lockdown. So I kind of started off, my account shows how the harp can be used in pop music. It's very niche. But I started off just posting a few kind of videos here and there just for fun. And I'd been posting on YouTube and Instagram like over the last couple of years anyway. And then I had the classic, like, you know, was looking for a job in lockdown. So I had time to kind of focus on TikTok. And the more I posted, the more I got like fascinated in how it all works, like the algorithms, like why videos do well rather than just a random one that did well. And then the rest of them all like not doing so well afterwards. I kind of looked into like the why and how it all works, got to know like other content creators, and then, you know, got really close with them, and we kind of discussed like what works on the platform and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of had been creating TikTok content for nearly 2 years, I think, when I got the job at Cineworld. So I kind of had like a video editing style that I already did that was quite TikTok-y. It was not like super polished. Don't use like Final Cut Pro or anything like that, but I did know about how to create videos on TikTok and what I thought the algorithm kind of wanted. Yeah, that was kind of my background into it. But yeah, it's kind of my first. I had done like a few marketing things before, but this was my first role like doing marketing for a brand. So I was quite excited to like take the knowledge that I'd learned as a content creator separately and then bring that to a brand to like see how it could take off.
Absolutely, that's awesome. So having come from running your TikTok from a personal account, then coming to Cineworld to run it as a brand, you said you did a lot of kind of analysis on what worked. So how were you able to differentiate between what worked for you versus what you thought would work for Cineworld? And how did you start to implement that?
Yeah, so there was a couple of things. Firstly, like I never wanted to be the face of the brand. I think that's quite like that was quite important to me because I think also like, you know, I'm not the face of this huge company like just because I run the TikTok account, and there were so many people within Cineworld who were already such a big part of it. Like we have like over 100 cinemas across the country with amazing staff members who have different talents and are really keen, and a lot of like, you know, staff that work in the cinemas are like film students or are really into creative stuff. So I kind of, my thought process was like, I'm not going to be the main person on the account. Like I'll be behind the camera, I'll do the filming, I'll do all the editing, come up with the ideas, but I didn't need to be the person in front of the camera. So that was like a really big difference for me, I think. And I think that's something that like, not that I don't want to speak for you, Carla, but I think that's something that Carla was kind of looking for as well, was like someone that would understand like the tone of voice of the brand and get that across rather than it kind of like being about me.
Yeah, I think to me, I never wanted to be anyone to become like the face of Cineworld. Like I also didn't want to like hire a presenter or someone like an influencer or work with one specific person. Like I always thought it would make more sense to have multiple people and multiple faces. And I thought also like when Olivia and I first started talking about what is our strategy for TikTok, what do we want to achieve on there, how are we going to figure out our content, what do we want to be featured in content, who do we want to be featured in content, and stuff like that. And one of the things that we talked about was, you know, we want to make it feel really authentic, and by using the cinema staff, it's just an easy win to showcase, you know, our actual staff member and not have to worry about it being like one specific person or like one group of people. We have so many different people to play with. It's just a really nice opportunity to kind of make our content stand out and also feel like really authentic that way.
Yeah, I think it also like it's really nice because the staff members get so excited about it, like especially if one of the TikToks they've been in like does really well, and then when I go back to the cinema next time, they're like, oh, people have like been asking me for selfies, and it's so exciting. Like they get like their moment as well, which is really nice.
That's so fun. I definitely think like the authenticity really shows on your account, so I'm loving that. But you've talked a couple times, there's so many people, you have over 100 cinemas. So how is your team kind of structured to help organize all of that to get this content up?
Well, I'm loving the term team. I mean, at the minute, because I'm on maternity leave, it's basically all Olivia. So she is the team in terms of when it comes to social media. So I will let you answer that question, but I think it's important to point out just how much work she's doing and how much, you know, is kind of on her with this.
So I am the person who films and edits and posts all the TikToks. So I basically plan trips around the country. We have cinemas in the UK and Ireland. I haven't made it to Ireland yet, but so yeah, I go on like trips around the country, and I normally go with someone else from the office who like helps me film and helps with like the lighting and stuff. And then the plan is just to get as many cinemas in as possible, really. So I kind of, it depends on which cinemas I go to, and I think this like applies to, I guess, any like brands that have multiple sites. Some of them will have teams that are more creative and have their own ideas already in mind when I go there, and some of them won't. They'll have people that are up being the TikToks, but they don't want to come up with the ideas. So those sites, I'll normally go with in mind like what I want, or if there's like a kind of like business specific one that I want to be doing, like we have a big, you know, promotion coming up or something like that. And then with other sites, like there are particular ones that I know have loads of film students and they love doing their own ideas, and I kind of got to know the staff members there. Then I'll go with like a vague idea of a few that I might want to film, but also like when I get to the site, I'll like sit down with them and brainstorm like what ones we want to do and stuff like that. I think one of the main challenges I find is like in terms of like jumping on trends, like sometimes it's kind of hard if there aren't enough staff members in a cinema that's close to where I live. I can't just like assume that there's going to be staff members that I can take off when they're supposed to be like doing, you know, different like duties at cinema. So I normally try and plan it in advance, but sometimes with TikTok you just can't do that, like you don't really know what's going to come up. So yeah, that's kind of like how it's structured. And then when I'm on so like alongside running TikTok, I also run like write all the content for our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and do like the interviews with cast of films and stuff. So it's kind of like juggling those two things. So when I'm on trips, there are like a few people that are kind of just starting to join the social team that I can kind of pass the copywriting over to, so that I can focus on the TikTok videos. Because what I would say is like, don't underestimate how long it takes to film and edit TikToks. It takes so much time. Even thinking of the ideas and all that stuff, it's basically like a job in itself. So when you're trying to run other channels at the same time, it's quite a lot of work. Yeah.
Love it. I mean, I think especially that, plus the fact that you have so many people that are involved in it, I'm sure it just kind of starts to add up a little bit. And you mentioned how some cinemas have people that are more excited, have their ideas already. So when you, actually, before I ask this question, there are some already coming in through the Q&A, so just a quick reminder to pop them in there and we'll get to them as quickly as possible. This one is coming from Luke. So when you do see that some cinemas don't have maybe that same motivation as others, how do you motivate them to get involved and get excited about it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. That has happened a couple of times. I've found that like when I go and film TikToks, I try and make it like the most fun thing ever. So like I'll always like, you know, we'll get whatever snacks are used in the video, like they're not props, like the staff gets to like, you know, eat whatever we're using, and like we do like fun stuff with music. And like I found that if I've started with a cinema where maybe only 2 people are interested in doing it, actually like people have seen them in the TikToks and seen them be filmed, and then that's made other people be more enthusiastic. And also the views has really helped. Like it becomes quite competitive between like the local sites, like especially when the TikTok's going to the millions and they beat someone else's TikTok, and then they're like, oh, we were at the top of the views and now like they've caught us up. So that really helps as well, like friendly competition. But I think it's making it a fun thing to do, because like TikTok is fun and it should never not be fun. So I think that's the main thing, is getting people involved who might at first have been like, oh, that's lame, I don't want to be in a TikTok, but actually they're like, oh, that looks really fun and I get to eat loads of food.
I think it's also helped that because of the success that we've had and the fact that, you know, we have like certain cinemas where things go viral, we have like we have quite a lot of good buy-in from senior level. So we have management who encourage staff to get involved and who support staff getting involved, as opposed to
Quick freeze.
She presents
But I
as
think,
well.
yeah, well, hopefully she'll sync back up. But I think what she's saying is it needs to be bought in at every level. Would you agree, Olivia?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that like our head of marketing is really like he's really keen for TikTok. So I don't like, obviously there are some ideas that can't be done on a brand's account, but it's really exciting to see like the board and stuff. They look at our TikToks and they like them, and I don't feel like I have to fight loads to kind of like push through. I know some companies probably have like more red tape than I have, but I think Carla had done quite a lot of the persuading before I started, which was good. Yeah.
Amazing. And so that kind of leads me into another question that's been asked. So you said you don't have to do a lot of fighting. What is that kind of sign-off process, and how quickly would you say that it happens?
So when Carla was in the office, the sign-off process was me and Carla. So we'd have a meeting like the beginning of each week, and I'd talk her through the ideas that I had, and then I'd film them, but I'd already kind of got them approved by her already. And then I'd film them and I'd check them with her, and she like always like proofs them. I always have someone proof them, because you can't edit a TikTok once it's up. So especially if it's a TikTok that has like loads of text, I'll get like 3 people to proof it before I post it. And then now it's kind of like, there are some, I think something that was really important for me to learn anyway, and Carla like kind of laid out at the beginning, was like understanding a brand's tone of voice, because I went in being like, oh my god, I want to be like really sassy, and like, because you know that's what a lot of brands are like on TikTok. But like Cineworld is a very family friendly brand. It's the kind of brand that like, you know, people go to have quite a wholesome time at the cinema. So trying to get that tone of voice right was a bit difficult at the beginning. I think sometimes I came up with ideas that were like a bit too sassy, and I had to like change them a bit. But now I would say my biggest struggle now is explaining trends to people who aren't on TikTok, and trying to explain why like a mouth filter is going to be funny and stuff like that is probably my biggest challenge. But in terms of getting approval, I've been there for like 9 months now, so I understand the tone of voice, and I just know that, you know, ones that are a bit more like, what's the phrase, like self-deprecating, are not gonna be passed. So there are so many other options that I can do, so I don't really waste my time thinking about those ones, because there are so many like great things, especially with something like a cinema. Like there's so many exciting things about the cinema that I don't need to be like sassy in order to get the exciting things across in like a fun way. So I think that was probably the hardest thing with the approval process. And there have been some videos that I've made, fully made, and then I've been told they're not quite right and maybe I can change them or stuff like that, but that's really, really, really rare. Like I'm very lucky, and like it's a really supportive team in that sense. And I know that will be different for different companies, but I think if you can have someone like Carla who can really like back why you should have TikTok before you bring someone in to do the TikToks, that really helps.
Absolutely. I think it really shows as well. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about you would analyze your videos, and I think that was more on your personal side. I'm assuming it applies to what you do for Cineworld as well. So what are the things that you kind of look for, and how do you know what is better than others aside from just views? Like, how do you know what the right content is?
Something that I've always found is important on TikTok, in like what's important on any social media platform, and I'm sure like anyone who creates some social media will know that like watch time is very important. That is what I basically always have in my head. And I think that, but watch time doesn't necessarily mean a video has to be short. It just means that people want to watch to the end. So I think that's what I always try to have in mind. Like if I'm going to create a longer video, like why do people want to watch it to the end? If it's long, there has to be a reason. But at the same time, you know, people on TikTok they're not stupid. Don't, like, if you just do a video of nothing and leave something to the end, they'll still scroll past that. You've got to do like little kind of nuggets of information. But I think the main thing I would say is like when you're experimenting with TikTok and when you're like trying out what works for your brand, like look at your analytics like after you've posted the video, because they're so unique to each person. So what works for our account might be different to what works for your account, but the only way to know that is by looking at them basically. And I think like don't ignore what like the data says. I know that's really geeky, but normally if there's a video that you've posted and you thought, oh my god, this is the most amazing video, if you look at the analytics, you'll see why it didn't do well. It's normally quite clearly laid out, like, you know, not enough people watched it through the whole way, or like the shares and like favorite of the video weren't high enough, stuff like that. That's like, yeah, the main thing that I kind of noticed with the analytics. But yeah, I would say like 48 hours after you posted a video, just go in, have a look at the analytics. Don't get like too fixated on them, because then it can, you know, make you feel a bit down. But yeah, just have a look and be like, right, that didn't work with that video. What can we change from that video to make this video do better? Yeah,
I think the other thing to consider as well, especially on something like TikTok, is that it's so unpredictable on like what else might be going on at the time. So a video that would have gone viral on a Monday didn't go viral on a Tuesday, even though it was exactly the same video, because there was something else that was viral, that was trending, that took all the attention away. So I think that that's also a learning that, you know, we weren't shy of like just sort of deleting a video that we, sorry about this, deleting a video that we didn't think, you know, performed to its best of its capability, and kind of reposting it at a different time and see if it, you know, did a little bit better then. So I think that's the other thing. There's a lot of test and trial and learnings, and yeah, just trying things out, I think, especially when it comes to TikTok.
Makes sense, makes sense. And that actually leads into another question. So you're saying that it's very much like a test and learn kind of platform, but before you launched and when you brought Olivia on board, what was the strategy? Did you have a set one, or was it really just try anything and see what works?
I wanted to make sure that the content was going to be TikTok friendly, that it was like TikTok content, that it wasn't like someone who didn't really understand TikTok coming in, who doesn't really use the platform, who was going to just try to make TikToks, or that it was someone who's like, you know, really big on Instagram but hasn't really used TikTok, trying to repost Instagram content. So I think to me it was making sure that the content was right for the channel. That was a really big important thing for us. Making sure that it represented our brand in the best light, and kind of trying to reach that audience that TikTok has that isn't on other platforms, and, you know, reach that younger audience and connect with them in a way and engage with them in a way that you just can't do on other channels. So yeah, our strategy was definitely testing, learning, seeing what works and what doesn't work, but also, you know, making sure that we create fun branded content that doesn't feel too advertising, and, you know, can be a bit silly and can be a bit geeky and can be, you know, a bit out there, and didn't have to be super polished and didn't have to look as slick as you know, our content on screen needs to look. And yeah, I think there was some, even once Olivia started, there was some, you know, showing TikToks to the more senior staff members to be like, this is what TikToks are, this is why this works. Yes, it looks a bit, you know, different to all of our other content, but that's the point. And yeah, I mean, Olivia did an incredible job by making our very first TikTok go viral. So after that, it was a lot easier to get people's buy-in and get people to sign off on things that seemed a little bit more out there and a little bit, you know, crazier. But yeah, generally, yeah, our strategy was definitely create TikTok specific, authentic content that gave our brand sort of some exposure to an audience that isn't on other platforms.
That makes a lot of sense. So just with the current landscape, when you look at Instagram, they're really pushing reels now. Do you still kind of treat them differently? Do you approach TikTok in its own specific way, or has that started to bleed into other platforms as well?
So with reels, we do put some TikToks on reels, but they're very specific ones. So I kind of tested that out a little bit, and the Instagram audience is just so different. And sometimes if you post a TikTok on Instagram, the Instagram audience is a bit like, what is this? So you've got to pick specific ones. Like if I've done an interview with a cast member, they go down quite well on reels. And sometimes they'll also go down quite well on TikTok, depending on how I've edited it. Like I try and do like lots of short little clips rather than like a whole interview. So those kinds of things work on reels, and sometimes some TikToks work on reels. But I'd say of all the TikToks I've posted, maybe I've posted like 8 of them on reels over like 9 months. And then, yeah.
I mean, I think that there's this whole joke even on TikTok at the minute about, you know, when you have a TikTok trend that you think is really funny and you have to wait 6 months for your friends on Instagram to find it. You know, I think there is this whole notion of like Instagram's a little bit behind, and even with the TikTok stuff, it's behind, where like a few months after something trends on TikTok, all of a sudden people on Instagram find the trend and then find it funny. But yeah, I think in general, like our approach from the get-go was they're different channels, so let's not mix and match too much unless it actually really makes sense.
Got it. I think that's really good learning to have, because I feel, especially on the trending side, like you said, some things just won't resonate on reels. So on trends, do you find it hard to kind of strike a balance? How do you kind of prioritize trending versus proactive content?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting question. I think it really depends on, firstly, like what's going on in the company at the time and what kind of needs to be made, and whether what needs to be made can be a trend, and whether I need to come up with a whole new concept for it. So as I said earlier, sometimes the trend-based stuff is hard to do when I don't have a cinema lined up to go to, because I have to rely on hoping that there's extra cinema staff that can do the trend. But what I've found is like some of our most successful videos have not been trend-based. Like we did one right back when I started, which was for Cineworld Day, which was when all cinema tickets for one day were £3. And it was like one of the first videos I ever made. And it was like someone going around the cinema saying like, what's happening on Saturday? And then someone's being like, I don't know what's happening on Saturday. And that ended up getting like, I think it was about 3 million views organically. And that wasn't a trend, didn't have any trending sounds in it or nothing like that. I just did a video that I thought would be TikTok friendly and would work, and it was an advert, but it wasn't an advert. And so I think it's like trends can do really well. Like the first video we ever posted, the one that was on, I think it's on like 2.5 million now, that was a trend. And I wanted to open the account with a trend because I was like, you know, that's what people expect brands to be doing. It doesn't mean that's the only thing you have to do. Like you can definitely mix it up, and like there's always good to throw a trend in because audiences like seeing that. But I think if you can also come up with your own original content, like there's no reason that won't do well too. Like TikTok is, most creators on TikTok started by doing their own original content. Like people who just follow trends is not as exciting. So it's kind of like striking a balance. That's just my opinion anyway, but yeah, that's kind of the attitude to have. And sometimes there are like lots of kind of more like businessy ones that just need to be done. So it's just trying to think of a way to do them in a more exciting way than just like, this thing is happening.
Yeah, I think that was definitely something that like Olivia and I spent quite a lot of time on at the very beginning, was how do we get our brand message in, and how do we make adverts that don't feel like adverts but they feel like TikToks. And I think that was something where actually like in fact I think Olivia noticed after a while that okay, they can be a bit more advertising than I thought and they will still do okay. So there was a bit of playing around with that to see like kind of how far can we push it to say go to the cinema and watch a movie without it feeling like, you know, we're just advertising ourselves and making people do what we obviously want them to do. So yeah, I think that's the other thing, like in terms of the organic content that you make that isn't trend based is this, what can you do and how far can you push it to make something that is like your own and feels authentic and is advertising but still feels like a TikTok.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. While we're on the topic of trends versus original content, there is a question here of how do you keep up with what's trending on TikTok? Do you search hashtags? What's your go-to?
I don't think you need to search hashtags. I just think you need to scroll through the For You page. Like everything you need is there. It's not like it's not the same as other platforms. Like you don't have to kind of stare into hashtags and stuff like that. You just need to see what people are resonating with, and also like allow yourself the time to scroll, because you might be like, oh, I should be working, why am I scrolling through TikTok, which is often through my mind. But then I'm also like, it's for a purpose, and essentially that's still market research. And also you don't have to copy a trend exactly how it is. Like there was a video I did recently where I used a trending sound, nothing to do with the trend, but cut the clips in the same place, and that one's on like just under 2 million. So I think it's like just scrolling, really. Scroll away and have fun.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the thing is like you need to spend quite a bit of time on it because everyone's For You page is very different. Like the For You page that I have is very different to that of my sisters, to that of my boyfriend. Like everyone has very different content, but the big trends always break through. So you need to be scrolling through long enough to notice, okay, there's like 2 or 3 videos about this trend. So it is actually a trend that is bigger than just my For You page. So I think that's the other thing. You can't just find one thing on your For You page that did really well and expect that everyone else has seen it, because that's not really how it works either. So you need to invest the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I also think if you see a trend and a trending sound, like click on the sound and scroll through the other videos on the trend. Like sometimes a trend comes up and I don't even really understand it, and then I have to like click on the sound to scroll through the other videos to like understand how I'd use that in one of our videos. And I also think like there are some sounds that brands can't use, so there are some trends you just can't do, but doesn't have to be the worst thing ever. Like you can think about ways that you could maybe take elements of a trend and make it work with what you can use. Yeah, I think there are just so many like ways to discover things. And I also think like brands interacting with brands on TikTok is a really great part of it, in a way that you don't get that on other platforms. Like if you see a brand post a duet video, duet it as your brand. Like why not? It's not going to do any harm. And it could potentially be great, and then also that can like lead to you doing more stuff with the other brand, and like it's a very friendly place for brands, and not against each other, actually kind of working together. So I think that's like definitely something that is quite different to other platforms, like the collaborative element of it.
Yeah, I love that. It just reminds me of Ryanair when they do like all the brands comment in the comment section, and you look through and you can literally see so many brands on there. It's just kind of, it makes it feel like a community, like people aren't fighting and everyone's trying to support each other. So I absolutely love that. You mentioned a couple times about organic, which we all know organic and authenticity is huge on TikTok, but just curious, do you guys do any paid on the platform?
We do some paid. We were quite reluctant initially to do paid because we didn't have the right content, and I didn't think it was a fair test of the platform's advertising capabilities if we just put an Instagram ad on TikTok because it's vertical. So I was pushing really hard to not just run any old content on TikTok as an ad and test the platform that way, because I didn't think that it would really represent what the capabilities of the advertising on TikTok would be. Now that we have TikToks, sorry, my chat's on the table. Now that we have TikTok content, we do it a bit more, but we're still really picky about what we put paid spend behind.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of people look at our account and they're like, oh, you must have put paid spend behind that because it has millions of views. But actually, I think we barely put paid spend behind any videos, like a couple, like maybe 3 or 4. But apart from that, it's pretty much organic. And the paid spend only really goes behind very specific things. So we try basically not to. But also, like, I mean, if you have the budget and it's there and you really want to push a specific video, then you can, but it's never going to get the same engagement as if you did that organically. Like if you can produce a good organic video, it will achieve way more from the audience perspective than an ad will. Because like you can see, even if it's been boosted organically from, like you post an organic video and then it gets boosted, like the user on TikTok can see that it's a boosted post, not when they click on your feed, not when they click on your page, but they can when they're scrolling through, like it comes up with all ad things. So they do know, and especially with like Gen Z, like they want to be able to trust brands, so they would rather you weren't advertising stuff to them. Like it's more like subliminal messaging. But there have been a couple of times where we've been like, oh, I think that video could, you know, maybe perform a bit better, and it deserves that. But yeah, it's pretty rare.
Yeah, and also like if we have like a bigger campaign that is about a specific thing and we have a TikTok that works really well to promote the thing. So for example, a 40X campaign, we've got a period where we're pushing 40X movies, and we've got a TikTok that does a really great job at selling 40X, and we would use that TikTok to sort of, as part of the overall campaign, we would put that as our TikTok content on TikTok when we're doing paid social across all the channels anyway. But yeah, as Olivia said, it's not like every single TikTok that we post, we also put paid spend behind to try and boost it a bit more.
No, that makes sense. And so back to the organic side, since I think we've kind of established that organic gets you the engagement that you want if done correctly. Is there any, I guess, approach to how often you post? Do you stick to a posting schedule? Do you recommend a minimum amount of posts per week or day? Any insight you can give on that?
That's a great question. Kind of depends on how much time I have. In my ideal world, I would be posting 3 to 4 times a week. I don't think you need to be posting multiple times a day. I think like, and this is something I learned being a creator for a long time. I remember when I first started like a few years ago, I was posting like multiple times a day because like, you know, saw all these things that were like, you have to post 5 times a day or your account's going to fail. But I just don't think that's, like, from my personal perspective anyway, I don't think that is necessary. I think that there's definitely consistency is really important. You don't want to be leaving it weeks without posting. Like, I think don't post less than 3 times a week, but quality is also really important. I don't mean quality as in like a perfectly finished video like you'd get on Instagram. I just mean quality that like you've put thought into it, it's going to be user friendly for TikTok, and it gets the message across that you want. I would say it's better to have videos like that than be posting 10 times a week and 5 of those videos are going to flop. So I think, yeah, like that's kind of how I view it. And I think some people might have a different approach to that than I do, but I think it is really important to be consistent because you want to be constantly showing off on people's For You pages, but you can only post every day if you have the capabilities within your office that you have people that can do that. If you don't, then it's not worth putting out like mediocre content just to fill up the days. Yeah, that's kind of what I think anyway. But yeah, I mean, some people might think differently, but I just, yeah.
I think definitely we always decided that quality versus quantity was what was important for us. So we'd rather have 3 really great TikToks that go out in a week than have 7 really mediocre, crappy TikToks that go out. So yeah, having less content that's really good is definitely our approach rather than having more and sort of seeing what sticks.
Yeah, I think less content that's really good and still being consistent. So like, don't do like 3 videos a week and then leave it for 2 weeks. If you're going to do 3 videos a week, stick to 3 videos a week, but don't do like 7 videos one day, 1 week, 2 videos the next week, 1 video the next week. Like, just try and even it out. You might have loads of content ready at one time, but if it's not trend specific, there's no reason you have to post it all in 1 week. You can spread it out if that helps with like the capabilities of how many people are in the office and stuff like that.
That makes sense. So now that we kind of understand how often or what you prioritize when posting, were there any obstacles when starting this process that you didn't foresee beforehand that you would advise to people wanting to get started today?
Carla, do you want to go first?
I think in my head, I was kind of like, yep, so Olivia's going to start and then we'll start doing TikTok right away. And I didn't realize how long it was going to take for us to actually figure out what are we even doing. So we decided to, I think it was almost 2 months before we first posted after you started? 1 or 2 months?
Like a month and a half, yeah.
Yeah, because we wanted to make sure that we like really sit down and think about, okay, what's our plan for the platform? What do we want to post? How often do we want to post? Who do we want to be involved with the TikToks? What kind of tone do we want to go for? How's it going to sit sort of in relation to other content? Are we going to share it on other channels? You know, we wanted to make all the decisions beforehand and then go live rather than kind of go live, then go, wait, hold on, what are we even doing? And does this fit in with what we were trying to do? And yeah, so I think for me, the biggest learning was, you know, take the time and don't rush into it, but make the plan and then go from there. But then also don't be worried about, like, I mean, Olivia and I went to a talk and they told us that your first TikTok's not going to go viral, which we were really lucky and it did. It also set the bar very high. But I think generally don't expect that to happen. Don't expect that you're going to go, you know, viral on your first TikTok and then continue to go viral all the time. Expect to start slowly and get your name out there and have people realize that you're even on the platform to start with as a brand, and then sort of build your audience up slowly but surely through that consistency that Olivia was mentioning earlier.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, like something I really try to take out of my vocabulary is like the word viral. I just don't like it. I think that I spent a long time as as a content creator having this word viral like constantly thrown at you, like you have to go viral, but actually like what is viral is kind of different to every person, it's different to every platform. We were very lucky that like the first video did do really well. I mean, it was kind of like luck and kind of a lot of thinking about what would do well. So it was a bit of both. But like, you know, there are videos that have come afterwards that haven't got 2.5 million views, but I'm still very proud of it as videos, and that's what I kind of take away from it. Like there have been many videos that haven't performed as well as I'd like them to be, but it doesn't really get me down because I don't have the concept of like everything has to go viral. I just have the concept. I have a baseline for me of a certain amount of views that I'm happy with, and as long as the video reaches those views, I'm fine. If it goes way better than that, then amazing. But like, I think because I set the bar quite high with the first few videos, I think I had to kind of find a thought process in my own head of like, it doesn't mean that every single video has to do that, and it doesn't mean that a video is flopped if it doesn't do that, as long as you're proud of what you're putting out.
I really like that, and I am a bit curious to know what that number is and how you reached that. Is it something that you've gotten to after posting a couple times and you know what your average is? Like how did you get to that number that makes it okay to you?
I think I got to that number because I looked at a lot of other platforms that had similar amounts of following to wherever we're at with our account. So like if you look at a creator who has like, you know, around 150 to 200,000 followers, barely any of their videos will always get over 150 to 200,000 views. Most of their videos will get kind of, sorry, just found the floor, sorry. Most of their videos will get between like 10 and 100,000 views. And then if you look at a creator who's got millions of followers, most of their videos will get between 50,000 and like up to the millions of views, but there's no way all of their videos, unless they're like one of the huge creators on the platform, are getting millions of views every time. Like that's just not how it works. So I think I had a very realistic approach of like, just because we have over 150,000 followers doesn't mean every video is going to get over 150,000 views. It's so dependent on like how your audience, how it's pushed out by the platform, like how your audience perceives it, like, you know, the watch time and everything I was talking about earlier. So I think it's kind of like assessing what the amount of followers you have, compare it to a few other brands and also just creators that have a similar amount of following, see what kind of views they get, and then you won't feel down about your views because you'll realize it's actually very normal. And I think having been in the creator world for a while, when I first started out, I was always getting down about my views because I was like, oh, I have this many followers and my videos aren't getting as many views as followers I have. It that doesn't make any sense. And then when I started to talk to more creators, I realized that across the board that is a very normal thing to happen. So as a brand, that's also a very normal thing to happen, and it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. Yeah, so that was kind of how I came to that like mindset, really.
Yeah, I love that because I think everybody has that we must go viral mentality. People see brands or even creators go on and they get that one massive hit and everything else just seems like it's not performed as well, but absolutely that's not the case. There is that baseline and it's different for everyone, so I love that. I guess another question that came in, do you find that being a well-known brand helped your success on TikTok?
That's a really interesting question. I think, do you want to go first, Carla?
I can give my perspective and then you can give yours.
Yeah.
I think for me it definitely helped initially because our very first TikTok was, did you know that Cineworld's on TikTok? And the responses were like, oh my God, Cineworld's on TikTok. So if we weren't Cineworld and we weren't a brand that people would recognize, obviously that wasn't going to happen. If we were some cinema or some company that, you know, no one's ever heard of, then no one's going to go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you were on TikTok, because they don't know who you are. So I do think that that's helped us. But I do think also that therefore sort of the expectations were probably a little bit higher than with other brands, whereby we needed to represent what people were already thinking about us. So we had to think about, you know, what do people want to see from Cineworld? What do people expect from us? How can we play into that? How can we use it to our advantage, as opposed to kind of making that be an issue where we can't live up to that or something like that. So I think it probably helped us more than it hurt us, but it was like, you know, striking the balance in that for me at least.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the first few posts were very much like, this brand's on TikTok, woo, exciting. And then I think the post following that is like, okay, everyone knows you're on TikTok now, like what are you going to do that makes us want to follow you? I think so. It's like definitely, I would say, did help. Like I think there's no denying that when you see a brand that you know on TikTok, you're like, oh, I'm intrigued to see what they posted. But I think what comes after that is kind of where it can get quite interesting as well, because why do people want to follow a brand? Like because they're funny or they're sassy or they do content that, you know, they want to see that is different to just a content creator who isn't a big brand. So you kind of have to think about your content in a, every video has the potential to do really well, so why would people want to follow from that video? And also like followers aren't everything on TikTok, I would say. Like because videos can go viral without having loads of followers, sometimes I think there's a big focus on like how many followers you have, but actually because of the way the algorithm works, not necessarily about how many followers you have, it's about the engagement and it's about how far your videos go, which can be just as effective as, if not more effective than having a large number of followers. So I think it's kind of like striking that balance of kind of what you're thinking of as the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to call out our CEO here, who has started a TikTok a couple weeks ago, and he only has, I think, a little under 600 followers, but he's gotten a hit, which reached over 100,000 followers. So it's not necessarily about the number of followers you have, because that doesn't mean that you're going to get better engagement, better likes, better views. So it's all about the content at the end of the day, and I think that should come first rather than followers. While it can be important, it's a nice vanity metric. It does not directly translate into performance. So sorry, Ollie, if you're on here, didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it's a good case study to have. So I have a couple technical questions here. What do you use to edit your TikToks?
So a lot of them I edit in the app. I think TikTok really likes it when you edit in the app. That's something I've seen across like the two accounts I use, like my personal one and the TikTok and the Cineworld one. It also has like some of the best in-app editing I think of any social media. It's so much easier to use than Reels. Like if you haven't given it a go, it's really clear, and they've recently done loads of updates that make it like basically the same as like using CapCut or Splice or something like that. The only thing with that is it's, you know, like how you get the video afterwards. Like if you edit it in like CapCut or Splice, which are the two editing apps that I tend to use outside of TikTok, then you do have the nice finished video that you can use on other platforms in an easier way. But if you know that video is just going to be used for TikTok, then I would tend to edit within TikTok. But yeah, if not, CapCut is the only one that I think has like the TikTok text as an option. Like Splice, last time I used it anyway, didn't have that, but I haven't used Splice for a while. So yeah, but I do everything on phone editing apps. I never use a computer for editing for TikToks and stuff, because it's just not needed, I think.
Makes sense. And also, fun fact, CapCut is owned by ByteDance, so that's probably why they have the same text. So just if you want something that looks a little bit more native on TikTok and you're only going to be doing it on TikTok, we would recommend prioritizing CapCut, but Splice is also great. We have a question specific to a brand. So this is kind of an out of the box question or brainstorming question. So if you're posting TikTok first content, you're using trending sounds, but you're kind of stuck at around 200 views. Do you have any tips to break through that?
Sorry, can you say that again? My internet cut in the middle.
Yeah, no problem. So this is kind of like a brainstorming question. So imagine you're a brand who is posting on TikTok. Everything is TikTok first. They're using trending sounds occasionally and just really making sure it's authentic as possible, but they seem to be stuck at 200 views for the most part. Do you have any tips to kind of help break out of that? Anything that they can at least try to see if it switches things up a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Lighting is, I think, one of the most important things. Get a really good light. Like it makes such a big difference. If you're filming in natural light, that's the best thing. If you're filming in like a dark office, then you need like a good light source, I think. The camera quality, I think, is really important. Sometimes videos do really well and not such a good camera, but TikTok does like that kind of thing. iPhones tend to be better than Androids. Not that I don't like Androids. Androids are also great, but they just do tend to be more like user friendly for TikTok. And then in terms of like why the views aren't doing so well, like I definitely say look at the analytics. You like if a video is, you know, kind of about like 10 seconds long, then you want the average watch time for it to do really, really well, like in the millions, to be around 10 seconds. If it's a much longer video, it doesn't need to be a watch time at all. But like it's, you know, it's kind of, the more you get to know your own analytics, the more you'll see how long a watch time needs to be per video. So if it's like a minute long video, there's no way that you need to have your average watch time as a minute, because that's not really going to happen. But if it's a shorter video, you really want to find ways to make people watch it the whole way through. So whether that's like doing exciting little bits throughout, or a kind of story that's going to be listened to start to finish. But yeah, I think that's really important. And just the more you kind of look at that, the more you'll see there's, yeah, I would say like those are the two kind of main things to focus at, is watch time, and I don't know what they call it, watch time and average amount of people that watch it the whole way through, are the two like main kind of focal points, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and also just speaking from like a a user perspective, I would go back to your TikToks and think about it like looking at not as a brand, but looking at as a user, as a consumer. Why do people want to watch those TikToks? Like, what do you think makes those TikToks worthy of views? And kind of go back to the beginning, you know, see if maybe you're not quite hitting the tone right, maybe you're a little too late on the trends. Like, is there something that like isn't quite where you need it to be for those views to sort of get higher? And kind of, yeah, just like look at the content a bit more closely, and try something new, try something different. If everything you're doing is original content, try a trend. If everything you're doing is a trend, try something original. Just see, you know, try something new and see if that gets any different views or any higher engagement.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think, like, to add on to what Carla said, I think that's really important. Show people your videos and ask them why they think it didn't work. Like if I've done a video and it hasn't done as well as I want it to do, like sometimes I'll ask around the office, like the people that use TikTok, and I'll be like, would you have watched this? And they might be like, I got a bit bored halfway through, and I'll be like, okay, that's probably why I didn't do very well. Because maybe like I thought it was funny, but just because I thought it was funny doesn't mean that like a room of people are all gonna think the same thing. So yeah, like kind of going back to that like basic approach and thinking about like what you could have done better. But I do also, and as I said earlier, I do think the stuff like lighting and video quality helps a lot, because people don't want to watch videos that doesn't need to be all slick and like Final Cut Pro, but they definitely do want it to be like visually nice to look at still.
Yeah, makes sense. You don't need all the equipment, but it still needs to look great. Just conscious of time, we have about 5 minutes left. I've popped my email in the chat just in case anyone has some follow-up questions, so feel free to copy that and send it off later. But I'm going to wrap this up. Apologies for any questions we didn't get to, but I want to hopefully end it on a question that will help a lot of people. So if you had 3 pieces of advice for brands starting out on TikTok, or maybe they're in that rut of a couple hundred views, from everything you've learned, what would the 3 main things be that you would recommend?
Okay, I will start because I think Olivia's 3 points are probably going to be a lot more interesting and important. So I'll go first and I'll go quick. I think my biggest learnings are hire someone who understands TikTok. Definitely, like don't just get someone who says that, oh yeah, I've used TikTok before, and get them to do it. But get someone who has created content on TikTok and who really understands how it works. They don't need to have as many followers as Olivia had when she first started, but they do need to have created TikTok, not just have used the platform, because I'm a TikTok user and I would not be able to do what Olivia does. So it needs to be someone who really understands how to create TikTok content. So that would be number 1, hire someone who really understands the platform. Number 2 would be really think about what you want to be on the platform. Like, what are you trying to achieve on the platform? Are you trying to get you know, broadcast specific products? Are you trying to engage with people in a specific way? Are you trying to engage with a specific group of people? Are you trying to get people to come to your venue? Like, what is it? Like for us, we knew that we wanted to get people to interact with us as a brand. We wanted a younger audience that we can't reach on other platforms. We wanted to showcase our different sort of USPs that other cinema chains don't have, and you know, those were kind of our starting points. And then we went from there, like, okay, how do we create content that showcases that? And number 3, I think it's definitely like just create content that's TikTok specific. Don't I think that there's still brands to do it, and there's still people who try and skim through things and just go, oh, I'll just post out an Instagram story on there, and it doesn't work. Like, make sure that you actually create that TikTok specific content, and don't waste your time on cross-posting vertical content that you've created for other channels. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I think my first point was Carla's last point, is like one of TikTok's main like catchphrases is don't make ads, make TikToks. And I think that is just like the most perfect catchphrase I've ever heard. Like, it's so important. You can make an ad that is not, buy this thing right now. You can make an ad that's like, look at this funny thing we're doing with loads of product placement. So I think that's like the main thing I would say. The second thing I'd say is when you're starting, like when you're wanting to start your account, don't start it with just one video ready. Start it with like a bulk of videos ready, and then have the freedom to be able to play around with putting more trends in. But if you want to get that consistency, you have to start with like a good couple of videos, doing like 25. But you know, I think I started with about 8 videos ready, and since I started it 6 months ago, there hasn't been a week where I haven't had at least 2 to 3 videos that I could post, because I always have some in the backlog that maybe aren't so trend specific. And the last piece of advice I think is, I know it sounds so like silly, but like, have fun. This isn't a platform like, you know, it's so different to Twitter, it's so different to Instagram. Like, you have the freedom to be able to be so creative. Like, the captions are actually really important. I think if you're captioning something, do something that can drive up the comments. That's like, you know, if you've got a great video but the caption's like a bit meh, then people aren't going to comment on it as much. Whereas if the caption's really funny or asks a question but in like a really short sentence, that can literally be the difference between a video performing well and a video not performing well. So like, I think that's kind of a really important element of it. But like, just have fun with it, and if you need to kind of prove to people higher up that having fun with it and doing the fun stuff works, like the best way to prove that is by giving it a go and trialing out lots of different things. Like, try different captions, try different lighting, try having a few different people in it. Like, try posting at different times of day. I find the time of day doesn't actually affect it that much, but you know, you can give it a go and see kind of what works for you. But I think it's just like trial and error and having fun mixed with looking at your analytics.
Love it. I feel like that was more than 3 things, but all very valuable. I appreciate everything. I appreciate you joining with your son. I appreciate you joining Olivia when you're not feeling very well. As I mentioned, my email's in the chat if you have any follow-up questions. This has been recorded. I'll be sending it out tomorrow. But thank you both so much. I think this was great, and we will end it there.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys.